Jane. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic. I'm going to try to get this right. Not too high. Okay, so it's really good to see a lot of people that I know, but I might rather see a lot of people that I don't know at this point. My sobriety date is July 17th, 2006. So it truly doesn't feel like very long. It's amazing how quickly life goes when you're sober and working a program. I would like to say that, that AA has given me something that I didn't have before, which is choices. And now that I'm sober, I have a choice to make my life be anything that I choose for it to be. So, I've got the usual drunk log like everybody else. I was born, parents split up when I was 6 weeks old. We went to live with my grandparents. They liked me. I felt like my family didn't, but they did. And so I spent a lot of time growing up with my mother working, and when she was around, I was trying to find ways to make her like me, because for some reason I thought she only liked my brothers, probably because they were more fun, and they were a lot older than me, so that made a big difference. As an adult, I can realize a little bit that the reason I wasn't included is that I was just too young for a lot of the things that they participated in, but that's not what it felt like growing up. So I always felt like I didn't quite fit in. I was the only one around whose parents were divorced. I grew up on a farm, went to a one-room school, kindergarten through 8th grade. There was one other guy in my grade. My grandson asked me yesterday, he goes, "You're lying about that, aren't you?" I said, and there was nobody in the grade in front of us till Pam D. flunked. And then we had somebody in the grade in front of us. So anyway, it was rather different, rural growing up, and I reached high school, and the last night of our freshman year, everybody was going to the drive-in theater. I'm from Charlotte. We had a drive-in, and so 4 of us girlfriends got in the trunk of a car and snuck in. And then when we got out, the guy who owned the theater said, "Get out, Jane." He knew my mother. And we said, "We were playing Mission Impossible." He goes, "You failed. You owe me money," which we all had brought our money because we thought about that. But the thing that was great is back then the drinking age was 18. And so we had someone buy us a 6-pack and a half pint of sloe gin. And so we had our beer, we had our sloe gin, and what we did is kind of went car to car. And I drank the first beer, and I thought, this really tastes nasty. But I really want another one. So I drank another one, kind of asked the girls, "Do you care?" And they were leaving theirs, kind of like, and I'm thinking, why are you leaving part of it? This is like really fun. And by the time the second one was gone, I wasn't shy anymore. And it's like, well, this is getting better and better. And then I drank the sloe gin because they took a taste of that and thought it tasted like cough syrup. And I said, I love cough syrup. So I drank that. And then I threw up for 3 days. And then I figured out, I got to learn how to do this better because throwing up isn't really any good. So I just need to learn how to do it. So I started talking to people that drank a lot more, and they were like, "Well, you can't mix things." Oh, okay. And then I realized that beer had more calories, and it took longer, so to stick with liquor would be the way to go. And I have to say, pretty much for all of my drinking, that was the way I went, because I just wanted the quicker the better, to not feel, and to have the insecurities that I had go away, which they did. So I had choices back then, and I chose to hang out with, I didn't want to hang out with the stoners, but I didn't want to hang out with the church crowd either. Kind of wanted to be in the middle, and on the weekends go to the more fun crowd, so that's what I would do. And so it pretty much, by the time I graduated high school, I was drunk every weekend, Friday and Saturday night, And I found a really good ploy to do that is if you get home 15 minutes before curfew, no one questions where you are. I don't understand why other people hadn't figured this out, but it really would work. So that was what I'd do, is I would get home early. And when I was in high school, I started dating this guy, pretty much because he was the only one that asked, because everybody else said I was too tall. And we used to go skiing, and we were in Explorer Scouts. We got to do a lot of fun things, but within a few months, he started telling me what I could and couldn't do. He was a couple of years older, and he had a lot of really cool friends, so I figured I was supposed to listen. So whatever he told me to do was what I did. Mostly what it was what he told me not to do, which I wasn't to hang out with my friends, I wasn't to do this, I wasn't to do that. Now, you would think that you would go, well, this is bullshit, I'm out of here. But for some reason, there was a fear of being that at least he was someone that accepted me. I don't want to be alone. And then it kept getting worse, and the abuse got worse. And then he started carrying a gun, which sounds kind of crazy. It is crazy. He had a handgun, and it was loaded, and he would show it to me all the time, and he said, if you ever leave me, I will kill you. And, I was 18, what did I know? And so that was pretty well the way it was. And that continued, and he told me that I couldn't go to college, which I was about a 4-point student, so I didn't. And then he gave me permission to go to cosmetology school because there would only be women there. And that way I wouldn't encounter any men, so I was allowed to do that. Some things just really work out because I still do that 40-some years later and love it. So I went to school and met a couple of women there who kept asking me why I couldn't do anything with them. And I said, well, I just can't. And they kind of caught on to what was going on and said, it doesn't have to be like this. And I was so incredibly miserable that one day he was threatening me, and I said, you know what, just pull the trigger and put me out of my misery. I'm not going to live like this anymore. And had him drop me off at my house, and that was that. He didn't shoot me. If I would have known that 5 years earlier, I would have gotten out of the car earlier. But anyway, so that's when the fun began, because now all of a sudden I am free, and I can party. And a party I did. Every single night was just a good time. I enjoyed the hell out of it. So that was my first taste of freedom, and what I chose to do at that point was to make up for all the time that I'd missed. And what I had missed, I thought, was all the keggers and all the other things, and so I proceeded to try to catch up time. And then I decided I was doing hair at this point. It actually turned out that I was pretty darn good at it. And so I was working and making really good money. And what I would do is I was one of the only ones in our group that had a car that would make it to Lansing. So I would fill it full of people, and we would go to Lansing to go to the bar. And we would go to Houlihan's and the Silver Dollar and whatever else. That's where I met Jim, Silver Dollar. He's a bartender. I met a lot of bartenders, dated a lot of them, because I was too shy really to talk to anybody else. And they always seemed friendly because I think you're paying them. I think that's part of what it was. So I started to spend more and more time in Lansing and get some friends here. And ended up, Jim and I got together, and after 6 months of hanging out, we got married. And then I moved to Lansing. And at that point, it was just so different from living in a small town. And I really enjoyed that I wasn't living in a small town anymore where everybody knew exactly what you were doing. And the great thing is I met a lot of women that like to party just like me. Let's go until we're sick or until we pass out. I always thought we were just falling asleep. But that's what we would do, usually 6 nights a week. And I'd get up, no problem. Sleep 3 or 4 hours, go to work, have a great day, leave work, go directly to the bar and do the same thing day after day after day. And all the friends that I had that didn't do that became no longer that much fun to hang out with. And they said, wow, you should slow down. And I'm like, yeah, you're just boring. One of my best friends to this day, I started working with her. She was a hairstylist also, and she was sober. I went to my first AA meeting. It was a New Year's Eve in 1986. I went to a New Year's dance that they had at AA, and it was packed. There were so many people, and so many people up dancing, and I thought, what the hell is wrong with these people? They're laughing, they're dancing. I've never danced a step in my life without being drunk to do it. I could not figure it out. So I left and went and got a bottle of champagne and was gone about an hour, drank it, came back in, and then danced a little bit with my friends, and then left and then went to someplace that was a little more fun. Left my date behind. So that was kind of my first experience with AA, but my best friend at that point had been sober for just a few years. At this point, she's, I think, 38 years sober. I got to watch her from being a drunk like me to put herself through LCC, MSU, and then Cooley Law School. And she's an attorney to this day, and she handles all my divorces. It's good to have friends, you know. So anyway, Jim and I got married, and that did not work out. And there's a few reasons that did not work out, and I would think that possibly alcohol and drugs had something to do with it. I was drinking, he was drugging, I was drugging, he was drinking. It just didn't matter what day of the week it was. One of us was getting altered in some way. And we were both too good people that just could not make it work with putting substances into our bodies that poisoned us to being the kind of people that we would have probably liked to have been. And so after a couple of years of that, I left. He had an old pickup truck, and I got a tune-up on it. I made like a 2-gallon thing of chili and baked a bunch of cookies and said, have fun with the guys, honey. And while he was gone, I moved everything out. Because, once again, I was too afraid to confront anyone. I was too afraid to open my mouth. If I had a mouthful of crap, I wasn't going to open it. And so what I did is waited till he was gone and ran, which is kind of the story of my life. Because I'm not going to have any confrontation. I'm just going to run. So that's what I chose to do. And then, like, okay, here we go again. Time to have fun. And, I think at the time I really thought I was having a great time. Went to a lot of great concerts, went to LA 3 or 4 times a year, kind of did a lot of traveling. I was at this point teaching hair color around the country at things, a few hundred people in the audience, trying to help them to make a better future. And all of us drank like I drank. And if you were too drunk, then they'd give you a line to make sure you could go out on stage and present really well. The best one was and being on the stage with him, and he stepped behind the curtain and hit the joint a few times and came back out and said, let's all party. That was the way of what it was. So I had a choice with that. And then what happened was I was dating a man, and I became pregnant. We were going to live together, and we had it set for a month from then. And I found out I was pregnant, and he said, well, you've got a choice. Once again, it's a choice. You can have me or you can have a baby. And so he was gone. I made the right choice for me. Hang on a second, I'm getting really dry. Somebody needs to adjust this so that there's a place to put your water. Or maybe I should have wore my Camelback, and then I could just suck on the straw. Anyway, so there I was pregnant. I owned a salon at that point. I had about 12 employees. And I thought, this is cool. I'm 31 years old, 32, I guess. I can do this. This won't be any problem. And then, lo and behold, I started dating this guy who I'd known for a long time. We were in Lansing JCs together. And now I'm pregnant, so I'm not drinking, I'm not smoking weed, I'm not doing anything. And so he started hanging out with me, and we would bike ride and all kinds of things. And so he was around, and he was there when she was born. I had my mother there, a couple of really good friends. And my daughter was born on December 28th. And she came into the world screaming, lifting her head up and looking around. And I thought, oh my God, look what I've done. So then, it was December 28th. On New Year's Eve, I told him, just go. Everybody go have fun. Go do what you were going to do. And I sat there on New Year's Eve with the baby, crying, going, what have I done? What have I done to the two of us? I am so sorry, baby. I'm so sorry. And not sorry that you were born, but I'm so sorry I put you into my life. Because I didn't really feel like I deserved anything good at that point. So it was a challenge to be a single mom. But we pulled it off. And then the guy that had been hanging out with us, a year later, we got married, and I married the Boy Scout. He was so good. So it was like I was trying to go, okay, this time I'm going to do it right. I'm going to marry somebody that has a good job, that knows how to tie really good knots, helps everybody everywhere he goes, and then that will make my life get better. And he was busy. He was the Boy Scout. He was always out helping people, so the second he got home, I left. And I would leave to go to the bar to drink and drink and drink and drink and have a good time. And that's what I did, thinking, isn't this fun? And it was fun for a while until it wasn't. And then one day I told him, I said, I don't think I want to be married anymore. We've been married 7 years. And so I started hanging out with a guy that we golfed with, and he liked to drink like I did. And that meant that we could get a fifth and probably have to go back to the store and get another fifth before the night was done. And I thought that was so much fun. Till it got to the point where he got his third drunk driving arrest, and then he couldn't leave the house. And at that point, drinking with him every day and keeping up, I just didn't want to go anywhere anyway. I knew I was drunk. I knew I was sloppy. I didn't want anybody to see it. So we'll just stay home. So I chose to stay home with him. And then he got his fourth drunk driving arrest, lost his great job, and his attorney told him to check into Brighton. So I went down to Brighton to visit him. They had family on Saturdays, I think it was. I can't remember. This was like 25 years ago. And I would go to visit for the family, and they'd have a meeting, and I would leave, and I would buy 4-pack of wine coolers to make it from Brighton to home, because, good God, I couldn't stand being around all those sober people all that time. I had to get a drink to make it home. And then I'd get home, but it set this taste in my mouth of, what am I doing? I don't like this. So I did the next logical thing, is after he got out, we were together for a while, I broke up with him because he pointed out to me what I was. Because he got out, proceeded drinking again, was having me sign his court slips. He was making up names every day for me to fill in. And I started to feel really dirty and really icky. And I really didn't like it. Now, I'd had a lot of fun. I've got the stories, and a lot of you that have heard me talk before have heard about the passing out and waking up in the hallway of the hotel completely naked, not knowing how I got there. And it was at a hair show. And so I figured, there's 2,000 women in this hotel. If I knock on a door, a woman will answer, and I'll have her call my roommate, because I tried knocking on the door. She wasn't waking up. She was passed out also. And a woman will answer, and then she'll call the front desk. They'll come up and unlock the door, and I knocked on the door like this, and a naked man answered. His name is Jim. He lives in Eaton Rapids. Lo and behold, there's 15 male hairstylists there, and he was one of them. Things like that happened on a regular basis, and oh my God, it was great for the laughs. It was a lot of fun, He was very kind. He gave me a towel. We called to the front desk. He grabbed a towel because he was naked too. And then I kept running in. I'd see him, and I would run the other way. I'd see him like, oh no, I can't go down that hall. He's down there. The next day on the bus coming home, I'd gotten chips and salsa, and I said, you want some? And he goes, is it spicy? I said, yeah, it is. He goes, oh, I don't care for spicy things. And I said, well, I knocked on the wrong door then, didn't I? So, I had those stories. I had a lot of those stories. I had a lot of good times until they weren't that much fun anymore. And one day I decided that maybe I didn't want to do this anymore. And I quit. But in the meantime, I got married one more time. This guy, we dated 2 weeks, and then he moved the stereo in after 2 weeks. After another week, the TV came, and by the time 3 months was up, he'd moved everything he had in a storage unit into my house and told me that he's going to tell me how to live because I'm the smartest son of a bitch you will ever meet. And I'm like, okay, cool. Because I've not made a whole lot of good choices, so maybe this guy will make good choices, and I'll be with that. And it lasted for a while. And he would remind me on a daily basis what a piece of crap I was. That I was stupid, that I made bad choices, that if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have anything. On a daily basis, I got to hear it. My daughters, he was kind to them. He made everybody think how nice he was to me until everybody left. And then it would come out. One time we had a clog in our kitchen sink, and he told us to come downstairs. He was taking the pipe apart, and he told my daughters to hold the flashlight. And he told me, he goes, now look down. And what he did is he blasted it, and as soon as I got my face there, all of the garbage hit me in the face, and it's dripping down. And he said to my daughters, he goes, that's what you get when you're a stupid bitch. That was starting to get a little rough. And a few weeks later, I was going up the stairs. He was behind me, and he said something, and I retorted, and I turned around, and his fist was like this. I said, if you do, it will be the last thing you ever do. And that was it. I decided that I needed to quit drinking. So I was going to quit drinking, quit smoking, all on the 4th of July weekend. 4th of July was Monday, so that gives me Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then by Tuesday I shouldn't be shaking, I shouldn't have a headache, I'll be able to go back to work. So you just quit everything on Friday night. Saturday morning I went and got hypnotized to quit smoking in Howell. It took till, the Williamston exit before I bought a pack of cigarettes. Got home, I wasn't going to drink, and Doug and the girls left the house for a little while, and I knew my parents were out for dinner, so I ran to their house. They were only 3 miles away. Opened the liquor cabinet, poured a 8-ounce tumbler of vodka, and downed it in 2 drinks and said, there, now I think I can make it through the night. That was Saturday. On Sunday, I knew they were going out for dinner again, so I snuck over there again. And then by Monday, I told them, I got this licked now. All I need to do is drink wine. Okay? So I told my daughters, they were like, okay. They're like, 2 glasses of wine a day. I'm like, yeah, no problem. So I got the box of wine. And I'm going to have 2 glasses a day, 32-ounce tumblers. No, really, it's just regular wine glass. But what I also had there hidden was a fifth of vodka. So, I'd pour half wine and the rest vodka. And that was my controlled drinking. It was so much better. And about a week after that, I went to a girlfriend's, and my daughter called. She was 16 at the time, and she said, "Are you with Aunt Kimmy drinking?" And I said, "I had a glass of wine." She goes, "Well, you don't need to worry about hurrying home. I'm going to take my sister, and we're going to go to Dad's, and we're not going to live with you anymore if you're going to act like this." So I talked to my friend, who happened to be a member of Al-Anon, and she said, "Are you an alcoholic?" She goes, "Are you an alcoholic?" "Yeah, yes, maybe I am." And she said, "Well, do you want to be better?" Well, I didn't want what was happening, but I wasn't really sure I wanted to not drink. Like, if you could fix everything and still drink, that's what I really wanted. But I told her, yeah, I guess I do. Now, I have to say this because I didn't quit drinking necessarily because my daughters were going to go live with their dad and, oh my God, I'll miss them, because I wouldn't have. They were 14 and 16. Has anybody lived with 14, 16-year-old girls? Don't let the door hit you in the ass, right? But what I couldn't handle was having everyone that we knew know that my kids left because of that. So that meant I had to stop, or I might as well just move away. I mean, that's all there was to it. I wasn't going to face that. So I told my friend, I said, "Okay, I'm ready." That was on Wednesday night. It was the week of Common Ground. We had tickets for every night, so I knew it's like, okay, I'm going to rehab on Monday. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday are going to be banner, and they were. I had a great time every night. Sunday was my last day I was going to drink. I went and bought a fifth the night before, in addition to the pint I already had. And, of course, I drank the pint, part of the fifth, so I had to go back to the store at noon on Sunday and get another pint so that I had a full fifth, because I had a plan. I knew how much I could drink. So Doug left to go play golf with the friends, and I poured a few glasses, and by 1 o'clock I left about this much in the fifth, because I knew I'd want it that night after the concert to come home to be able to pass out to get to sleep, because I didn't go to sleep for years. I just passed out. And so that's what I did. Fell asleep in my pool, had my straps loosened on my top. Somehow it fell off one side. So I went into rehab with one fried boob and the other one. The stupidity never stopped. But anyway, I checked myself in. My friend went and told my husband. She told my ex. She told my parents. And I was there, and I begged them, "Don't let me leave. Don't make me leave." It was at St. Lawrence. They normally only keep you to detox. I begged them to let me stay. And they did. So I got to have 5 days, at which point I absorbed everything I could. It's like, tell me more about the disease. Tell me what I've done to my brain. What have I done to my body? Okay, so what about this is genetic? I needed all the information that I could possibly get. So that's what I did. I stayed there. I got all the information I could possibly get. We were done on Friday night, went to family night. My parents went. My daughters went. Their dad came, which my current husband was really thrilled that he was there. And we got home, and I opened the cupboard where I always kept all the liquor. I drank all mine before I went to rehab, and his Jim Beam was still there. And I said, "You need to pour this out." He goes, "You don't like Jim Beam. You won't drink that." I said, "My ass, I won't." I said, "If you tasted this right now, you'd realize it's half water." So I poured it out, and then that, of course, made him angry. The next day, I did what I was told. I found the first meeting I could go to after I got done with work, and I went to a meeting. And the next day, I went to the meeting, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day. because they told me, and I'd screwed up everything so bad that I'm going to do what I'm told now because my best thinking has done nothing but get me into this mess. What kind of mess was I facing? Well, at this point, I had some employees that quit, and when they quit, I couldn't make payroll and make payroll taxes, so I didn't pay the taxes. At the point where it was $140,000 to the IRS and $120,000 to the state of Michigan, they will come knocking on your door. People say they don't do that. Yeah, they will. There's a certain point, and then they ask you about all your assets. I'm like, that car's 10 years old, and they said, yeah, but we've got a value on it. What are you going to do? And it was like, okay, what am I going to do? And that happened actually, I guess, the year before I got sober. When I got sober, I owed the IRS, the state of Michigan, a supply company where we'd gotten all the hair color and everything. I owed probably about $300,000. And I had a sponsor, and I said, what am I going to do? And she said, you're going to do it one day at a time, doing the next right thing. So I just kept going to meetings, don't drink in between. We were at about 4 months sober, and I was getting ready to go to Florida with my family, and everybody drank, and my sponsor said, okay, get on your knees. After a meeting, we're going to do your third step. Time to do the third step prayer, because you need to have a little more under your belt when you go spend time with family, because she knew how that was. So I listened to her. I did it. I was embarrassed. I thought everybody in the room was looking at us. Which everybody else had probably done it, so they weren't looking at us as anything other than good for you. So I did that. I made it through that, and about after I'd been sober about a year, working the steps, and my sponsors pushed me to do the fourth step, which she said, okay, we about ready to share that fourth step? Oh, yeah, it's ready. Yeah, I'll meet you in a couple weeks. And she goes, well, we're going to do it on Thursday. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm ready. Liar, cheat, and a thief. So I had to take a day off from work to write it. Met her sponsor at Grand Woods Park. And I started sharing. I was so nervous, especially because her sponsor I'd never met. And I told the story, and my grandma sponsor said, oh, I can top that. And then she told me, I went, I'll be damned. You did. So then we kind of played a little tit for tat, who could outstory who. And we had some good ones because, it was the 70s and 80s when we were drinking. It was a good time. But what happened is when I did that, all of a sudden, I belonged. That's the big difference, that they don't, it's like third step, okay, I did the third step. I feel, okay, I came to believe, okay, I'm powerless, let's just do this. But when I did that, something shifted. And a week later, in the morning, getting ready for work, and my husband at the time said, he said something about, you're such a dumb bitch, I should just divorce your ass. And I said, I think that's a really good idea. Yeah, all of a sudden, I have a backbone. And nobody will ever do anything like that to me again. And by the end of the day, my friend, who'd been sober at that point for 20-some years, served him with divorce papers. My sponsor waited in the driveway to make sure I was okay when I got home. And I went in, and he goes, baby, why would you do that? He goes, you know how much I love you. And I said, well, it was your idea. Oh, come on, hon. I only said that to control you. Does some part of what you just said sound not right, Doug? You only did that to control me? Yeah, that was it. It was done. And I don't look back. When I'm done, I'm done. But the thing with that is that all these things that used to scare the hell out of me, nothing scares me anymore. Okay, IRS, I resolved that one with $40,000. The state of Michigan, that one was still over my head till about 3 years ago. I was paying them $25 a month, and each month the interest was over $100. So I was paying them $25. It sounds like a bad credit card, right? The IRS, or the state of Michigan's way worse. So I paid $25. It would go up over $100 a month. And there was obviously no way I was going to do it. And one of my clients, I said, I've got a problem. Do you know somebody that could help? She goes, do you know what I am? And I said, you're an attorney. She goes, I am a CPA attorney. Guess what? And she wrote him a letter, and they wrote back and said, if you give us $100, you can call it all good. $130,000 gone like that. But that's what happens when you're doing the right thing, right? You live right, you live clean, you take the wreckage of the past, you learn from it, you move on, and life will get better. So what it's boiled down to is that now I have a choice. I have a choice what I want to do, when I want to do it, who I want to do it with. And nobody will ever be able to tell me when, where, why, and how high to jump ever again, because it will not happen. It simply will not happen. Because we're all given choices, and we all get circumstances, and it's our choice what we're going to do with them. And, one time it's like, go ahead, blow my brains out. I don't care. I don't want to live anymore. I was 21 years old when that one happened. And then it was 3 marriages later, and it's like I've made choices. Every one of them that was affected with alcohol and drugs didn't exactly turn out really well. So at this point, I feel really blessed. I have. Unfortunately, no, I'm joking. We have a 4-generation house. I sold my house. My mother sold her house. We bought 10 acres out in the country, 4,000 square foot house, in-ground, indoor pool. I got everything I wanted. And I didn't get it because somebody handed it to me or I married it. I did it myself with help from friends and family. So the promises do come true. You can have absolutely everything you want. What the interesting part is now that I'm at this point, I don't really want anything. I just want to be peaceful. Leave me alone. We got a 4-generation house. My mom's there. She bitches about everything. Thank goodness she's only there part of the time. My daughter, who's ADHD and on the autism spectrum and has 2 kids, she's decided this year that she's going to be able to raise them, which is a relief because they're 9 and 5. And she's decided that she can, using her therapist and using prescription for her depression, that she's going to be able to function, which is a huge relief to me that I won't be 80 and still raising them, I guess. So things are going well. But they're only going well because I have the strength of knowing that my mind is clear, that nobody can tell me what to do, and that anything that I believe in, if I research it, read about it, and get resources from more than one space, that I can figure things out, and that I have a bunch of people in sobriety that are super smart that can help me figure it out. And that's the cool thing. Friends and the people I've met around here are incredible. I was told early on when I was in that detox unit that people with ADHD and on the autism spectrum and all these different things, that a lot of people will self-medicate. And after I got out, I went through some testing, and yeah, guess what? They're like, wow, you're off the hook, ADHD. I'm like, yeah, okay. So I was able to get prescription for that. Back in the day, I used to drink for that. I used to smoke weed for that. I used to take cocaine when that didn't work. Snort coke, whatever it was. I would do anything to try to stop this from going like this. And so what the best part is that through getting sober and the steps and learning about meditation, I am able to sit and be quiet and just invite God to come into my head. And every time my brain starts to go somewhere else, I'll go back to, I love you, God. I love you, God. I love you, God. And go back, and then eventually everything will go away. And I find peace. And I do that on a daily basis. And it used to be I'd have to sit there for a half an hour to get 5 seconds of going, I did it! I wasn't thinking about something for 5 seconds. And now I can do it very quickly because that's what the program teaches us, is repetition. But it's a repetition of doing the next right thing, of talking to sponsors, saying your prayers, saying please, say thank you, and to do the next right thing. And I'm grateful that I've been able to do that. I'm grateful that I can stand here, not really very nervous, but nervous. I don't know, it's kind of weird. But I always cry. Those that know me know I always cry, so this is better than it used to be. I haven't had to use a whole box. But what I just would like to say is that the good times that I've had being sober have far outweighed the good times that I had while I was drunk. A lot of it's probably because I remember it, but I've also made such good friendships now that I know that I will always be okay. That's all there is to it. As long as I don't drink. Because I'm pretty sure there's a reason I keep going to meetings and have been for, almost 18 years, is because watching somebody come in that was sober for a few years and went back out, and having them come back going, Jesus, it kicked my ass. I got drunk one night. I got sent to jail, got in an accident, da-da-da. I want to hear that. Please tell me about your misery because I don't want to live that misery anymore. So I love that. I love hearing the stories of what happens when you come back. And I really love the stories of hearing what happens when you stay. Because that's the miracle of it all, is that when we stay, miraculous things happen. So, so these kids that were ready to leave me to go to their dad, I can't get rid of now. I really should have thought about that choice kind of hard at the time, but they're with me now. I just went to Texas and watched my 2 grandchildren down there. Well, their mom and dad went to Cancun, and I will cry at this one because that's so sweet. My son-in-law was taking me to the airport. The kids down there are 6 and just turned 1, and they're so cute. And my son-in-law was taking me to the airport, and he said, Mom, I really want to thank you for coming down here and staying with the kids. And it's like, yeah, it was my pleasure, I love it. He goes, no, you don't get it. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have went because we won't trust them with anyone else. Wow, that's pretty amazing. Because his mother lives down there, his father lives down there, his grandparents live down there. We've got all these people. But the one they trust him with is me. Because that son-in-law's probably he's never seen me drunk. There's a big difference. There's a big difference. I love the fact that I wonder sometimes if the people that we meet in AA we become so close to because they haven't seen us make the wreckage of our past. They haven't seen us do the stupid shit that we did. They haven't seen our humiliation. They haven't watched it. Is that why we're able to be so close to people here? Because we all get to start fresh? Maybe. I hope the people that I get to know now, I'm meeting the real people. Because when I was drinking, that person that was a drunk and doing all the drugs was not who I am today. So I don't think it was probably me. I think that the real me is here. And I'm really grateful for that. So with that, thank you.